There are stories that don't fade with time. They sit quietly in the shadows, waiting for someone to say the wrong name. And when that name is spoken, everything changes. Smiles disappear, voices drop, and the past comes rushing back like it never left. This is one of those stories. He was known as one of the kindest faces on set. The kind of man who remembered your name, who laughed easily, who treated crew members like family instead of background noise. People trusted him. They liked him. They felt safe around him. But there was a side of him almost no one saw. Because behind that warmth, there were names he could never forget, moments he could never forgive. And it all started with something that didn't look like much at all. A glance. Or rather, the absence of one. It happened on a dusty film set, under a sun that made everything feel heavier than it already was. He was still trying to prove himself back then. Not a star. Not even close. Just another working actor, waiting for his moment. He stepped into position, ready for his cue. Focused. Prepared. But the cue never came. Instead, the lead actor shifted his gaze and looked straight through him. Not past him. Through him. As if he wasn't there. As if he didn't matter. Later, he would describe it in a way that stayed with people, like being erased without anyone saying a word. And then it got worse. The star casually walked over to the director and, without lowering his voice, said something that would stick for decades. "Can we move him? He's distracting." Distracting. One word. That's all it took. Not an insult shouted in anger. Not a confrontation. Just quiet dismissal. The kind that cuts deeper because it pretends to be nothing. For him, that moment wasn't small. It wasn't forgettable. It was humiliation. And humiliation has a way of lingering longer than pain. From that day on, something changed. Respect wasn't optional to him. It was everything. And when it was taken away like that, it left a mark that never healed. But that wasn't the only time. Not even close. There was another set. Another day. Another moment where the air turned tense without warning. This time, it wasn't silence. It was dominance. They were setting up a simple shot. Nothing complicated. Just two actors sharing the frame. Equal space. Equal presence. Or at least, that was the idea. The other man didn't see it that way. He walked over, slow and deliberate, stopping just inches away. Close enough to make it uncomfortable. Close enough to make a point. Then came the words, low and sharp. "Move back. This is my frame." It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. The crew froze. No one spoke. No one moved. And in that moment, it became clear, this wasn't about the scene. It wasn't about storytelling. It was about control. He didn't step back. Not right away. Not because he was brave, but because he was stunned. Because something about it felt wrong on a deeper level. Like the rules had quietly changed, and no one told him. That kind of behavior didn't end there. It never does. There were hands on shoulders, subtle pushes, adjustments made without warning. Movements designed to shift focus. To pull attention. To remind everyone who the camera belonged to. And every time it happened, it chipped away at something. Not his talent. His dignity. And then came a different kind of challenge altogether. Not dominance. Chaos. There was one actor who didn't play by any rules at all. Not the script. Not the timing. Not even basic respect. One day, they were filming a serious scene. Tension, dialogue, emotion, everything carefully rehearsed. He delivered his line perfectly and got nothing in return. No response. Instead, the other actor crouched down mid-scene, casually eating, then started repeating his lines, mocking them. Word for word. The crew laughed. He didn't. Because to him, this wasn't creativity. It wasn't genius. It was disrespect. Plain and simple. There's a difference between improvisation and disregard. And that line had been crossed. From that point on, trust was gone. And without trust, acting becomes something else entirely, something hollow. If this story is hitting you right now, if you've ever felt overlooked, dismissed, or pushed aside in your own life, take a second. Share this with someone who needs to hear it too. Because sometimes, these moments say more than we realize. But the tension didn't stop there. There was another day. Hot. Exhausting. The kind of heat that makes tempers shorter and patience thinner. During a scene, he found himself slightly closer to the camera. Not by choice. Just how the movement worked out. It should have meant nothing. But to someone else, it meant everything. The reaction was immediate. A look. Cold. Calculating. Then a quiet complaint, loud enough for everyone to hear. Moments later, his position was physically moved. Adjusted like a prop that had been placed incorrectly. And that wasn't the end of it. During rehearsal, the interruptions started. Small at first. A step here. A block there. Just enough to throw him off rhythm. Not enough to stop the scene. Just enough to control it. After a while, the pattern became obvious. This wasn't acting. It was measuring. Measuring distance. Measuring attention. Measuring who mattered more in the frame. And those small actions, they add up. They always do. Then came one final moment. One that said everything without needing repetition. A simple setup. A shared shot. Equal space again. Or at least it should have been. The other actor walked in, scanned the set, then moved with purpose. A shove. Direct. Unapologetic. This works better. No smile. No explanation. Just action. The kind that tells you exactly where you stand without asking. And in that moment, something became very clear. Some people perform. And some people conquer. He never forgot any of it. Not the looks. Not the words. Not the subtle moves or the obvious ones. Because none of it was really about acting. It was about respect. Years passed. Careers moved on. The world kept turning. But those moments stayed frozen in time. Ask him about those men, and you wouldn't get long speeches or dramatic stories. Just short answers. Careful ones. Sometimes a quiet laugh. Sometimes silence. Because when something cuts deep enough, you don't need to explain it. You just remember. And maybe that's the real story here. Not about rivalry. Not about ego. But about how a single moment, one look, one word, one action, can stay with someone for the rest of their life. So now I'll leave you with this. Was he right to hold on to it? Or should he have let it go? Because sometimes, the hardest part isn't what happened. It's deciding whether it still deserves a place in your story. If this story stayed with you, if it made you think, feel, or see things a little differently, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder of what respect really means.